Welcome to the Wuthering Tangent Podcast. My name is BJ. With me is Jeff. Today we're here to talk about the 1979 sci-fi movie Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Okay, BJ, I selected this movie,
Yes,
which
you did.
yes, and I've been waiting for 2 weeks to find out what you think of it, and I kind of already sort of know, but what did you think of Star Trek: The Motion Picture?
So I'm going to paint the audience a word picture of how we ended up watching this movie. So
Right.
back in the Tron recording that got lost, we mentioned that Tron came out during the same summer that Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan did. Now, me, being a rational human being, said, oh, well, I guess that explains part of the reason why Tron ended up being a bit of a financial shortfall for, as far as the studio was concerned, because Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan is obviously the best Star Trek movie. And you disagreed. Not
Yes.
only did you disagree, you shocked me further by saying that Star Trek: The Motion Picture is your favorite Star Trek movie.
I mean, the blasphemy just kept coming, didn't it? Yeah, so, and instead of going too far off into yet another tangent, I think we kind of talked about it, but not really a lot. Just perhaps a little bit.
Yes, I've been kind of excited about this one because I think this is going to be the first time that we do not share the same opinion on the favorability of this movie.
Well, it was going to happen eventually. Eventually it would come to blows. And there would be hostility, of course. But, okay. So, yes, that all of that happened. And now, give it to me straight. What do you think of this movie?
I think that the plot is all right, but that a good 25 to 30%, 25 to 33% of this movie, and I'm not even kidding, is just special effect shots that occasionally cut back to showing the crew emoting.
Like, staring at the screen. Yeah.
You laugh.
I
But
laugh.
But as soon as we get in the spoiler section, I have proof.
Yeah.
I watched this movie with the stopwatch feature on, with my finger on the stopwatch feature of my phone, and I timed certain scenes.
Okay.
And to be fair, this is not the first time I've watched this movie, but it has been quite a few years. And I remember there being a lot of panning special effect shots. It was worse than what I remembered. I had made myself forget just how much this movie does this, but
Well, you mentioned like emoji faces in this movie, and if anyone made a movie of real people sitting watching a screen, that's probably what they would all look like, just sitting there, like puzzled, staring in these wide-eyed views of what they're watching, almost zombie-like.
sure. But in an actual motion picture, they don't need to do it for 5 minutes at a time.
Okay, good. So that was quite a review, and do you want to hear what I have to say now?
Yes, please try to explain to me how you believe this is not just a good movie, but the best Star Trek movie.
Okay,
Please. Please explain.
so
Please explain it to the class.
I need to clarify. I don't think that this is not the Star Trek movie that I probably enjoy watching the most.
Oh, so now you're changing your tune.
Oh, no.
You
Like,
lied to me 2
here's
weeks
the
ago.
thing. No, what I said was true from a certain point of view. Okay, so, yeah. So what it was,
A certain point of view.
yeah. In other words, the plot is changing now. Just keep up. Okay, so
Pray I do not alter the plot further.
exactly. Okay,
We're what,
Star
5 years
Wars
into this, we're
lines.
already making Star Wars references.
yeah. They help to get through the Star Wars line references. Okay, so
Okay, I'm gonna shut up. Go ahead.
yeah, I actually enjoy watching The Wrath of Khan and Number 3 a lot. Jumping back and forth between those two. I enjoy those. I enjoy all 6 of them. I think all 6 are amazing movies that are highly underrated.
You don't
But
count the never mind. I'm shutting up. Go ahead.
So the newer ones with the next gen crew, I like those too, but I actually think 1 through 6 are a little better than those. But they're all good. I mean, I pretty much like them all generally. It's like Godzilla movies. You like them all, but then you have certain favorites. So the reason why I think number 1 is a really great movie compared to the other 3 and the other 6, in fact, I think in many ways it's the best one, and it may even be a strong candidate for the best movie ever made in all of history. I actually think that that's possible. But I am very much alone on this. I don't think there's anyone else that probably has this ideal, this belief in the movie. I'm probably very much alone.
If you could see the expression on my face right now.
I know. It's weird. It's like liking episode 1 of Star Wars instead of the original trilogy 4 through 6. It's a weird opinion. Not very many people like this movie. I think today a lot of people are kind of rediscovering it and realizing that it's really neat in its own way. And it was cool because it's, 1979?
79, yeah.
Yeah, a lot. This is soon after 2001 Space Odyssey, and the special effects in the movie were really good, especially for the time, and they're very artsy, artistic, and cool. The reason why I think this is possibly the greatest movie ever made, but not the most popular by far, is it comes down to the storyline and the use of the characters. And on top of the special effects are good, but they really try to cash in on them a lot, and I get why people are tuned off by that. And I can go, how much do I say without spoilers? I think the storyline itself is really one of the best philosophically than any other movies. And if you had to pick a best movie of all time, it's probably not going to be like the best movie because of action or because of special effects or because of camera work or because of characters. Those are all good, important things in a movie. But if you had to pick like one thing that put a movie over the top to make it like the best film ever, it's probably going to be something philosophical that makes it very important to watch and get something out of. Does that make any sense? Or am I just being some sort of geek squared about this?
I get what you're saying. I disagree with many of your points, but I am letting you take this moment to explain your point of view before I start going off, so please continue.
Well, yeah. So all the Star Trek movies are great, but I think this one is closer to what Gene Roddenberry really wanted to do with the show. It's not as close as A Voyage Home. I think A Voyage Home was like the flagship movie of Gene Roddenberry's career, probably. It's the one that has the story he wanted the most. And he wanted this movie to be it, but there was pushback on it, and so they kind of like went through a couple different story ideas and they settled on this one. This is like Gene Roddenberry indulging in as much as he can to make this what he wants. And it turned out to not exactly be what the audience wanted. The audience wanted something a little different. And when they came back with the Wrath of Khan, they dunked it. They got exactly what the people wanted from the show. Anyway, but yeah, I can go more into the spoilers, but to me, this is a good watch, but we'll have plenty of time to discuss that, won't we?
Okay. Yeah, I believe I've already made what I think fairly clear, but just in case not. Like I said previously, I think the plot has the potential to be interesting, but the pacing of the movie, holy crap, the pacing of the movie just kills anything. Any momentum, just...
Okay, and you would say that the next movie they made had really good pacing, which would be Wrath of Khan.
Yes, most things have better pacing than Star Trek the Motion Picture.
Okay. The director of this movie is a very famous director, and after he made this movie, he did not make another movie for some time.
Robert Wise, I believe.
Robert Wise. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he made several movies that were really, really big. I forget all the stuff, but I was looking
Uh,
at the list.
uh,
He's got an impressive career.
you're gonna make me look it up so I can make your point for you.
Yeah, could you make my point for me so I don't have to? That'd be great.
Okay. He did. Obviously, the big one is going to be Citizen Kane.
Oh, he did Citizen Kane? Oh, okay.
He wasn't the director. He was the editor of Citizen Kane.
Oh, yeah, because the director was that really famous H.G. Wells?
H.G. Wells
No,
was
that's
an
a
author.
a little bit off there.
H.G. Wells is the guy that wrote War of the Worlds.
Okay. Orson Welles.
See.
Orson Welles. Yeah, one of those Wells people.
No,
Orson Welles.
Orson Welles was,
He's the director of Citizen Kane, right?
he was an actor in Citizen Kane.
Oh. Well, whatever. Okay. But yeah, he's a good director. Made a lot of stuff.
Yeah, let's see what he did. He did stuff that people might know. He did The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Oh, that's a good one.
He did...
Andromeda Strain. That's good. I thought it was good.
He did West Side Story.
Yeah, not my cup of tea, but probably well done.
He did do The Haunting, which is one of my favorite horror flicks.
Oh, I have not seen that. And he did this movie, and then his career kind of slowed down in directing. He did 2 more movies that I don't think anyone's really heard of. So this was like his last big film.
Anyway, while we're on the subject of that sort of thing, well, prior to straying into spoiler territory, might as well do the handful of bundled trivia I dug up for this one.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
So, James, hopefully I pronounce his name right, James
Doohan?
Yeah, Doohan. Scotty. He
Yep.
is credited with creating the Klingon dialogue from the beginning of the movie.
He what? He created
Yeah.
the Klingon dialogue?
Yeah, so
Okay.
so just a few words they say at the beginning of the movie. It's not like in-depth dialogue, and then later on, the linguist came along and like did the full dive into creating an actual Klingon language based on those words.
Okay.
The filming of the movie was plagued with delays pretty much from day one. In fact, the rush to get the film completed was so tight that the director had to hand deliver the final cut of the film to the premiere.
He got in his car and sped to the theater. I gotta get this on time.
It's like, well, the film's premiering today. I guess we should get done with the editing.
Wow.
So,
It's like me when I turn in my assignments. Quick.
yes.
I
Yes,
gotta
it
get
was.
through the day. It was. No
Okay,
joke
so-
there.
And then it received 3 Academy Award nominations. It was nominated for Best Art Direction. It lost to All That Jazz. Nominated for Best Visual Effects. Lost to Alien. And it was-
Okay, that's all right.
And was also nominated for Best Original Score. It lost to A Little Romance.
A Little Romance. I don't know that one. It must have a really good soundtrack because the motion picture has a soundtrack to it.
Yeah, is it Goldsmith?
Yeah, Goldsmith.
So this was Goldsmith's first job in the Star Trek universe, and he did composing for the movies and such through, I think it was 2002. And I think he wrote the fanfare for Next Generation.
Yeah. So the main theme of this movie was reused for The Next Generation.
Was it?
Yeah, that is the Next Generation song.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
You didn't notice that?
Well-
It's like the first thing I noticed.
I mean, I don't know. I guess in my household, guess we should say that in both our households, we both grew up with Star Trek. Your family was probably a bit more tricky than mine was, but we watched a lot of Next Generation in my house, so I guess I just kind of associate the Next Generation theme with just Star Trek in general.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so the original had a very different musical intro.
Yeah,
It
I
was
guess
kind of
like
wacky.
or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
it makes a great ringtone. And yeah. And
It's like, hang on. Oh, I did answer just as quick as I can.
Yeah.
Which is a sign of a good ringtone.
Just, oh my goodness. Yeah.
Oh,
What were we even talking about? You just wiped my
Uh,
memory sector now. Okay. Oh, yeah.
yeah, we were just trying to get the last few things in before we start talking spoilers.
Yeah,
So,
well, let's just get through it then. Okay.
anything else you want to say before we start talking spoilers?
Uh, no, I think that if no one wants to listen to the spoilers, then this movie is recommended for anybody who's a big sci-fi fan. Um, the real this is Star Trek with a philosophy hat on, and Star Trek often has action and romance, a lot of horror and mystery, and people like that kind of stuff. And there's usually some sort of philosophical theme that is lightly put into the story that kind of wraps up in the end. This one's a little heavier than those others. So if that's hard to watch, then yeah, it may not be a good film. But if you like that kind of artsy fartsy stuff and you're a sci-fi fan, then you gotta watch this one. This is an excellent movie.
Unfortunately, if you want to get to any of that highbrow stuff, you have to watch about 15 minutes of establishing shots before you hit the dialogue. So, so, so if you do
Good
insist on
things
watching
come to those who wait.
so if you do insist on watching this movie, don't be afraid to institute that fast forward button, because heavens to Betsy, I wish I would have when I watched it last night.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we ready to spoil this film?
I'm ready to spoil this. I am ready to make my point and ask you to justify it.
Sure.
Okay, so here be spoilers. So, there's the scene to just encapsulate the pacing problems of this movie. There is an establishing shot of a space station. They zoom in on it, they orbit around it for 45 seconds.
Yeah, 45 seconds.
Wait.
Okay, go ahead.
The scene following, Kirk teleports onto the space station, talks to Scotty, they get in the shuttle. That takes about 30-40 seconds. They spend more time establishing that, yes, this is a space station, than they spend on the actual space station.
Okay, you want me to defend that, right?
Best movie of all time, you're saying. Please, defend it.
Okay, so yeah, there's this thing called attention span, and we all have it, and I totally get why people don't want to watch these scenes for very long, because I mean, once you see it, you're ready to move on.
Wait. No.
Okay.
They spend more time establishing the scene than the actual scene.
Yeah, they do. They do it because
I'm making the threatening hand gestures like you can see them. Like I'm trying to will this into your head.
Okay, well, here's the thing. Like, the special effects in this movie they're special effects that Star Trek has never been able to do before. So it's like, it may not be new to us, but it was very new to the people trying to make this movie. They loved these special effects. And when you love special effects, there's a problem. You love it when you make the movie, and maybe the audience loves it when the movie comes out, but then as time goes on, that stuff gets way old and obsolete and gets outdone by every new kind of special effect that's coming out later on. So the answer is that, yeah, people are probably going to be bored by this, but I think that it's got some value to it if you're willing to look at it, because the designs of the spaceships and space stations are cool. Like, the design of all these space stuff is really good in Star Trek. Star Wars is cool. They have so many cool designs, but Star Trek, everything's a lot more utilitarian. Like, it's a lot more functional in the design. Like, the space station has got little tiny discs, little tiny circles. The Enterprise is a giant circle, and the space station has many of these different circles. And really, a circle is a good shape if you're going to build a spacecraft, because if it's round, you've got less surface area for a circle. A sphere is even better, because you have a maximum amount of space inside with lesser surface area on the outside. So a round disc is kind of like you get a little bit of both. You can access different parts much easier from the outside, but then you also have space on the, I don't know, it's like a building. When you build a building on land, you build up.
Wait.
What am I talking about? You're like, stop it.
Time out. So
Yeah, okay, fine. I'll shorten this.
you're just
Basically,
wait.
what do you enjoy
So,
in these
wait.
long segments? You enjoy the design of how everything is made and looks like.
Okay, look, I'm not saying that the designs aren't good or that the special effects aren't nice, but allow me to make my point a little bit more. So there is the part of the movie that I remembered where after the whole space station that they spend less time on than they take like zooming in on it and floating around it. That happens about 15 minutes into the film.
Uh-huh.
After that, there is a good 5-minute section of Kirk and Scotty on the shuttlecraft making laps around Enterprise. So that goes till about minute 20.
Right.
So that means that it's a 5-minute scene, 20 minutes to film. That means that a quarter of the movie thus far, that's including an overture. This film has an overture.
It does.
The opening credits.
Yeah.
The Klingons getting blasted by the intruder.
Yeah.
Kirk showing up at Starfleet headquarters. The scene of them zooming on the space station and the little scene inside. That's 15 minutes, followed by 5 minutes of just camera shots of the Enterprise and shots of Kirk and Scotty looking at Enterprise. Up to that point, 25% of the movie is the Enterprise or Kirk and Scotty looking at the Enterprise.
Yeah.
I don't care how good your special effects are. If 25% of your movie is just establishing shots and characters reacting to the establishing shots, that's not very good pacing.
So now, why they actually redid this in the Wrath of Khan, where Kirk once again in the shuttlecraft goes up to the ship, and they shortened the sequence in the Wrath of Khan. But the point of getting in the shuttle and flying up, going through space, traveling to the Enterprise is because they want to build a nostalgic view from the audience. They want the audience to soak in the reality of this enormous spaceship and what it can do, where it's gone. This is a spaceship that's traveled for 5 years in deep space. Kirk's been away from it, and this is like Kirk's jam. Like it's his entire focus in life. Like there's a line from Cheers. I don't think I can quote it, but like you always return to the one you love or something like that. Oh, how does it work? Yeah, but it's like the last I'm gonna give away Cheers now. What is it? Okay, but there's a good line in Cheers that's towards the end of the It's like you always return to the one you love. That's the idea. And so this is Kirk. He's been away from the ship and he's been doing really important things. His career is taking off. He seems to be getting everything that most people would want, like big prestigious career where he can make important decisions and influence a lot in Starfleet. But the reality is that he's understanding as he's coming towards the ship that really the Enterprise is really what he's about. And I think that's he puts all that acting, William Shatner puts all of that performance right into his face as he looks at the ship as he's coming up to it. He realizes this is really the home that I've left, and it's really what matters most to me. And being away from it from 2.5 years, going on to this prestigious career, he realizes that really this is where his heart is. This is where he really feels an attachment to doing something that is important to him.
Okay, and it takes
yeah, and to do all that, they took their time
of establishing shots to do that because
it's such an important thing for the audience to feel and understand and see that, hey, let's not worry about time. Let's just kind of like get get this done with as much emotion and enough perspective, because you gotta take the time to go around the ship and see Kirk looking at it, and to really take in the scene. And I don't think that you're wrong. Like, I think that when they redid the scene in Wrath of Khan, I think the audience really liked that one better. That was probably a better redo of this scene.
Yeah, because I was going to say, if you want, I have more examples of exception shots to take just entirely too long if you want.
Yeah, why not? Well, we could. I mean, there's so many.
You admit it.
Well,
so
I don't deny reality. It's just that I look at it differently.
We might as well get all these out of the way then, because I wrote these down in my notes. Okay, so after all that, after they had already ordered the Enterprise for 5 minutes, there's another 2 minutes of effect shots as the Enterprise leaves dock.
Yeah.
It
really is slow when they say, okay, launch, and it's like barely moving.
Okay.
But, a big ship doesn't really move quickly. It's not like even a rocket kind of like inches forward at the very beginning and before it like shoots very quickly upward. So
okay.
It makes kind of sense from a visual point of view that the ship would start off very slowly and kind of creep forward. And plus, there's probably in their flight manual somewhere, there probably says, by the way, don't fly out of this giant repair, thing too quickly or something. I don't know. But yeah, the audience wants to see it go like, okay, we're done.
Things your head cannon. Nice. Okay. So the courier ship carrying Spock, docking with Enterprise.
Yeah.
That's about a minute by itself.
Yeah, that's a cool little ship though. I don't know why the little the cells, the thing that makes it go into warp, why they had to like separate. I guess they wouldn't fit on the ship. So it can dock better if it separates.
Why those have to come off so that the ship can do a backflip and dock?
Because that's the way to make a good entrance. You don't just like come in. You like do a quick flip and then boom, you're there.
Did they not have ship-to-ship transporting in the original series?
They did. I mean, I guess they could have beamed the occupant aboard, but they didn't know what was aboard, and they didn't know who was aboard. I think they knew it was a person. But it's a really good introduction to Spock, because you don't see him in the movie, and they delay him coming into the movie, which is good because the audience now gets excited over seeing him.
Actually, that was something that kind of made me laugh when I was watching it, because early in the movie they have Spock like doing some sort of ceremony on Vulcan, and because Spock senses the intelligence behind the intelligence behind V'ger, he decides to go seek this out. And so there's like this shot of Spock just staring up in the sky, like contemplating things. And then with no transition whatsoever, just goes, da 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 da, and immediately just cuts to like Starfleet headquarters. No transition at all.
Okay, I'm gonna admit, I laughed at that part too. I do get a chuckle where it's like this terrible thing. He like what he's worked for his whole life, to the Kolinahr, the ultimate achievement for a Vulcan, to purge all emotions, to achieve this great thing that's supposed to be there in their society, great enlightenment, to get rid of all those useless emotions. And it's just like this hard thing that he's going through, and then it booms over to dun 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 dun, and here we are
with zero transition. It's just literally Spock, next frame.
Yeah. I admit that transition didn't work well. It probably needed different music, or it needed something else on Vulcan,
or just any kind of transition at all.
Yeah, something more.
Okay. Anyway. So, well, I guess panning around the Enterprise for 5 minutes is probably what most people will think of as the piece de resistance of the super lingering effect shots. But for me, so there's the scene where the Enterprise enters the energy cloud around V'ger.
Yeah.
Takes them 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And to be fair, there is some dialogue cut in there, but it takes them 4 minutes. There's another scene where they talk about things for a little bit, and then there's another 4 minutes of them flying right above V'ger. So, like a good solid 10 minutes with maybe like a 2-minute intermission in the middle. It's them flying through the energy cloud. Dialogue. Flying over Viger for another 4 minutes. I get that they're trying to establish scale, but this is like, it's like the beginning of Spaceballs levels of parody, except they're taking it deadly serious.
Yeah. So, well, they're showing off the artwork that they got that award for.
They only got nominated, they didn't win.
Okay. Yeah. So V'ger is really a major part of making this movie cool. So they gotta show lots of V'ger. They gotta show all the different things, the long passageway, the cloud, which I never really liked the cloud very much until I watched it recently. But that cloud it's like a gaseous cloud, but it has a pattern to it. Most clouds are just fluffy gas floating everywhere, but this one, everything is organized into a pattern, which I think is kind of interesting. You have this machine intelligence, and it's like the cells on skin. Everything is kind of like in a pattern that's built, but instead it's like gas and matter of different kinds of stuff.
I enjoyed flying through the cloud for maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
Okay.
And then it kept going.
Yeah, there's like, okay, I've seen enough of this 3D puzzle.
Like I said, I get that they're establishing scale. And there's even special effect shots that I haven't mentioned that I was okay with because they were accomplishing stuff during those special effect shots. Like the scene where Spock like flies into the next chamber of Viger.
Yeah,
because
I like that scene.
Because and that scene works for me because he's explaining why what we're seeing is important.
Yeah.
You know, it's all recordings of stuff that Viger has seen. So that I'm okay with because it's advancing the plot while showing special effects. But when you're just special effects for 5 minutes at a time.
Well, yes, and they did learn their lesson from this movie. They did. So that it is a valid criticism.
Yeah. Yes, because after this, I believe this movie got names like, Star Trek, the slow motion picture.
The slow motion picture.
I mean, I probably didn't see this movie until I was probably in my 20s because...
Really?
Yeah, because this came out in 79, so that was before I was born. And my family never watched it because my dad thought it was really boring. And I can totally see why.
Yeah. Well, it's good that we're doing a review on it because it can get missed in the Star Trek lineup. Okay, so in the original episode, there were always whenever they'd run into something like another ship or an anomaly, it usually was like a bunch of strange lights on the view screen. That's the kind of special effect that they would use. I almost think like with this movie, they did something like that, but they just went grand with it. They decided, let's make it 28 AUs, so it's huge. It's way bigger than the solar system. And
I don't think that make bigger the solar system because isn't AU like the distance from the Earth to the Sun?
No, an AU is like it's like you take the distance from the Earth and the Sun, and then you draw a line that goes out and intersects at 1 degree. So it's really big, and AU is really big. So let's see.
Astronomical
unit
is a unit of length.
The unit of length. It's actually equal to 1.5 light years, so it's really big.
No.
No?
No. We're talking about the same unit, an astronomical unit.
Yeah.
Astronomical unit, roughly distance from the Earth to the Sun is about 8.3 light minutes.
Yeah.
Not light years.
No, I'm talking about an AU. 1 AU is equal to... Yeah, but no.
Yeah.
The distance between the Sun and the Earth is not an AU.
Yes, it is.
No, it
isn't. Unit. That is the definition of an AU.
Okay. We're ready to throw down.
What?
I'm ready for this.
Okay.
Go ahead, Google it. Go ahead.
I did! Astronomical unit.
Yeah, 1 astronomical unit equals 1.5 light years.
No. 3 minutes of furious Googling later.
Okay, whatever. Fine, science nerd. How does it feel? You're just a nerd anyway. No one listens to nerds. Anyway.
You're,
I need a drink.
oh no. Did we really just spend like 5 minutes on that?
I know. Everyone's been like, the pacing of this podcast is terrible. They just go on and on about battling over measurements that they haven't even thought about in 10 years.
I'm lightheaded. Oh no. Oh, what the heck were we even talking about?
How it was big. It was like 26 AUs in diameter, which was big.
Solar system. I think you were trying to say that Vega was bigger than the solar system. What?
Yeah. Okay, never mind. Whatever.
Anyway, so Vega is big.
Okay. It's the solar system is like 39 AUs. So it is smaller than the solar.
Okay, so I've had my fun.
Well, diameter of 79 solar system. The radius is 39.
Okay, so
anyway.
So pretty much at this rate, I've had my fun. I'll sit back, maybe mute myself while I laugh myself silly for a little while longer.
Okay, well, it's not that we completely disagree. Like,
and I
acknowledge that the pacing is a problem for most people. It's not a problem for me though. I don't care. The pacing doesn't bother me really. Because I'm boring and old. And that's how I prefer my entertainment, is also boring and old.
Which absolutely flabbergasts me, because in all the years I've known you, I could have sworn your attention span wasn't that long.
Yeah, nothing makes sense anymore. Yeah, my attention span isn't very long, but except for certain things, then it's way too long. Way too long. Okay, so I will start. There's one thing that I don't like about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll start off with that. I'll just get that out of the way, and then I'll go on and on singing its praises. There's one special effects shot that's not good. That's bad. They should have just cut it out. It's when the Enterprise is near it's towards the end of the movie when the Enterprise nearing V'ger, and the ship actually goes up and it's right up to the rock surface of where V'ger is, and they do a number of establishing shots of showing the crew standing on top of the Enterprise, which has never happened. The idea that you open a door and just walk outside, it's very unique. It's a very unique thing in a Star Trek story.
I did wonder why is there an elevator there?
I guess if you wanted to go for a little stroll, there's a nice little elevator and a door. So yeah, they go out of a hatch, and there's a few establishing shots that I think are fairly good, but they do one that's a side profile, and they have the characters, the actors against a blue screen, and it shows a profile of the ship off to the right. There's one of those shots that looks so bad. They obviously did a map painting, and they did this background on it, and I think someone must have been confused as to what it was supposed to look like at the end. They should have just cut it, because they have enough with the other shots. But it got into the final movie, and it doesn't look very great. But I think that's the only real shot that doesn't look great in this movie. The rest of the shots are really well planned, look good, and yeah.
Like I said, I'm not arguing that the effects don't look good. I mean, they do show their age, but that's probably because we're watching it at resolutions that were not intended at the time. I'm not arguing that the effects are bad, just that there's distinct overabundance of them. But carry on.
Okay, so what I like about this movie, I'll just get to the main point. So the part that I really like about this movie is the philosophical storyline of the idea of an intelligence learning everything that it needs to learn, everything. And it finally comes up to the point where it reaches a limit because it's mastered everything that was within its ability to master. And not only can it not do more, but it can't even comprehend that there is more. So it can't make the leap, understand something that is there, but it's completely unknown to it. And that's the part of the storyline that I like. And I think it's good because they show this same storyline in different ways through the movie. Everyone's got a certain perspective of what they want, but they learn later that what they actually want is something different. Nearly every character goes through this. Spock goes through this. He has the Kolinahr. He wants the Kolinahr. He wants to become a Vulcan in a true way and to purge all emotions. But then he stops himself and says, there's something else that I need to think about. And so he goes a different way. What he actually wants is something different than that. Kirk is the same way. Not only does he not want his desk job and he wants the Enterprise, but also he comes into conflict with his own limitations. Because this is one of the scrutiny that this show receives about the character Kirk is a lot. A lot of people don't like Kirk, and they think he's some sort of cowboy that's out there making out with alien women and fighting off bad guys. But really, that's not really his character at all. They actually show him making mistakes and correcting his behavior and not fighting everything automatically. Instead, he often takes the diplomatic route. So with Kirk, he makes mistakes in this movie. They show their perfect hero making mistakes and having to deal with that, as he nearly destroys the ship because he is not trained for it. He's not rated for it. And you could imagine, like, even with, I don't know a lot about astronauts, but I know that they spend enormous amounts of time getting to know every detail about the craft that they're going to be piloting or riding in.
Yeah, it should be noted for those who are unfamiliar with the movie. At this point, the Enterprise has been, like, pretty much completely rehauled, so it's not really the same ship that Kirk commanded back in the original series. So he doesn't know the ship as well as he did back in the original series.
Yes, yeah. And so even though he has all of this great experience meeting new life forms and dealing with them, he doesn't know all the intricacies of the ship, which can be actually somewhat dangerous, because if he makes a command that doesn't work well with the systems, it could be catastrophic. You know, he has to make life and death decisions, and he has to do it very quickly. And we see in the movie how that goes wrong, how Decker has to step in and save the ship because Kirk doesn't understand that when the warp drive went scawampus, that the phasers would not work. Sorry,
I'm just gonna.
Go ahead.
Just gonna answer some context here. So for those unfamiliar with the movie, Decker was the person who was originally going to command the Enterprise. He is kind of set up as Kirk's protege, I guess. But as V'Ger approaches Earth, Kirk assumes command of the Enterprise, and Decker is temporarily demoted to his XO, which he is not terribly happy about, understandably.
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on. I was just adding context.
Yeah. So my point is that this storyline of you want something, but you don't quite know what it is, and you have to actually go forward and discover what it is. And that V'Ger does that. Spock does it. Kirk does it. Decker also does it. And Ilia as well. I don't really argue the other characters as much. They're more in the supporting role. But those 5 characters, including V'Ger. V'Ger is technically a character in a sense. So they follow this same, so you have the same storyline repeated in 5 different characters. And I think that is a cool way to tell a story. So what happens is that, and this is a phenomenon that I think people will experience in their lives as they grow up or grow older, is that you kind of look around the world and you see everything for what it is and you learn everything, but eventually you're going to have to leap onto another form of logic, like the next great thing to understand. And the way this show kind of portrays that is that when you get to a point where you're stuck, you have to make that leap using another intelligence to help you. And that, I think, is the central movie, the central point of the movie. So you have the romantic plot between Decker and Ilia, and so they, being different, need each other in order to make this great leap. You have this other angle where it's V'ger, this great machine intelligence that is so incredibly smart, but it can't understand other things that are very simple to humans. You can't understand them because its intelligence is not designed to comprehend those kinds of things. It's designed to reject them because they're useless to the V'ger's intelligence.
Yeah,
so it needs a human to make the leap. Go ahead.
Yeah, they say that V'ger is a purely logical being, so it can't accept things that are beyond logic, like carbon-based life forms can, shall we say?
Yes, something that carbon-based life forms have spent enormous amount of time learning how to do and evolving into a state where they could do those kinds of things, and V'ger is not able to do it. And so that's the theme. And with Spock, it's the same thing. It's like he says in the movie, like, V'ger is a child. You got to think of V'ger like a child. And it wants, but it doesn't know what it wants, which is a lot like all of us. And that is a reference to the other characters, the other plot lines. Like Decker he thinks he wants the Enterprise and to be a captain and to go off in his career, but really what he wants is to be with Ilia. And Ilia's the same way. She does a vow of celibacy, but she wants to be with Decker, really. And Kirk is the same way. He thinks he wants his big career in Starfleet and to do all of that, but really he just wants one crew and one ship to go out and do something in deep space and make a difference that way.
Now, I'm going to argue the Kirk point a little bit, because they establish pretty early on that Kirk is jazzed as all get out to get the Enterprise back.
Yeah, so you're saying that he doesn't need to discover that.
Yeah.
He kind of already knows it. I get that. I think he discovers it very early on, and he's in denial of it. That's what I would say. And Bones points it out to him. I really like Bones in Star Trek. He's one of the characters that isn't as popular as Spock and Kirk, but Bones is a character that's going to say what he thinks. He doesn't hold back anything. And that's why Kirk needs him. And he tells him straight out the truth as he sees it. Like, you're pursuing this because it's actually what you want. And if you're not qualified, you could be endangering the mission. And if that's true, you can't deny the truth. And yeah.
Yeah, for much of the movie, or at least during the, let's call it the beginning to the middle, Bones kind of acts as the what's the word, conscious?
Like Kirk's conscious?
He's Kirk's Jiminy Cricket. He's the one, for lack of a better term, he's the one that points out to Kirk that, because early on in the film, as Kirk kind of takes over command from Decker, Kirk and Decker butt heads, and Bones is the one that points out to Kirk that it's not Decker causing the problems, it's Kirk.
Yeah. Yep. Kirk believes that he needs to be on this mission. His experience needs to be a part of this. And in the end, I think that he was right. But it's a hazardous thing for him to come in at this point with the Enterprise being in the state that it's in. It's not ideal. It's like a person trains for a particular spacecraft and then you swap out the captain at the last minute. It's not a good thing. But arguing with Starfleet Command points out that you need somebody who really knows how to deal with extraterrestrial life, an intelligence that's very different, to be able to deal with the unknown. And Kirk is especially good at that and has a lot of experience with it. So you kind of see it from both points of view. I don't think either points of view are necessarily completely wrong. And I love that about this movie, that there's conflict that doesn't have a clear right or wrong. I like it when movies can mix things up like that. Because some movies, they make it obvious to the audience who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. But in this one, they instead just make it complicated for everyone. Kirk is supposed to be the action hero, but things are complicated. There are situations where he's going to experience difficulty, even failure and struggling. So, and I've heard so many people not like Star Trek because they say, well, Kirk is some sort of, Chuck Norris in space. He's always right and always great. And I don't like that criticism because it kind of pushes aside all the help he gets from other characters, which is a lot. Spock and Bones are helping him a lot, even to make decisions, and they weigh in on things. And Kirk is an innovative guy. He comes up with a lot of the solutions, but so do other characters. And he says over and over again in this movie and in other films that he needs his crew. He needs them. Even in this movie, he makes it more obvious than other films. He needs Bones. He needs Spock. He needs him on this mission. So I like it because it shows that camaraderie they have and the fact that Kirk needs his crew, something that is overlooked a lot in Kirk's character.
I would say that they might show that a bit better in Wrath of Khan, but that's just me. And it's definitely something they totally missed in like the newer Star Trek movies. Because
you mean like camaraderie between them?
yeah, well,
define newer Star Trek movies.
Well, since we're on the subject of Wrath of Khan, one I was thinking of was the what's it called, Into Darkness.
Okay.
You know, the one that was Wrath of Khan but worse.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead with your point.
So, oh dang it! I guess the bigger point of the Wrath of Khan is that it's been a while since I watched Wrath of Khan, so kind of the point of the Wrath of Khan is that it's a lot about the friendship and choices, right? So I think they do a better job. Well, I think they do a better job in general with the camaraderie with Wrath of Khan, but then again, I guess for a good chunk of this one, where it's still Spock kind of being pretty much emotionless because of the training he was doing on Vulcan, so I don't know if that's a very fair comparison.
Yeah, so it's different in this movie. They get the audience and the characters on screen. Everyone's so excited to see Spock, and then it turns out he's so void of emotion that it's almost like a letdown, which is another thing I really like about this movie, how it does that. Getting back to your point, though, they do a good job in Wrath of Khan of camaraderie and having scenes that show how the crew is close together. It's like a family space, which is one of Roddenberry's goals, to make the crew like a family. So
I guess I could go further, but that would just be me. It would just be me dunking on new Star Trek movies rather than actually adding anything to the conversation. So
yeah, I mean, I could go off on the new movies. I've seen 2 of them. I didn't see the other ones. I stopped because it just was too much for me.
yeah, I saw.
But yeah.
I assume we both saw the same ones because probably the first new one, and then we actually went and saw Into Darkness together.
Yeah.
And that was
Many moons ago.
yeah, that was the movie that the more I thought about, the less I liked.
Okay. Yeah,
Anyway.
that movie does not understand character development,
Well,
story, and
the fact that and I think it was your wife that made the point that the fact that the theater was divided into 2 groups. There's the people who had seen Wrath of Khan and those who hadn't. And the people who had seen Wrath of Khan had to explain it to the people who hadn't seen Wrath of Khan to make Into Darkness make sense.
which is, I don't think that's a good thing.
No, it's not.
Yeah, okay. Everything that particular director that made that movie, he's made lots of
here we
different
go.
movies. Oh, here we go. His name.
I've
His name that shall not be mentioned.
heard you rant on this gentleman before. I'm over here rubbing my hands.
So many people love this guy, and I have nothing against him personally. I think this is not personal at all, obviously, but I don't like any of his movies, and even down to the very first one that I think he was majorly a part of, which was Armageddon. I don't like Armageddon, and it was a very popular movie. And everyone thought, oh, this is the best director in Hollywood. Let's give him, the keys to the kingdom. And no,
Jeff.
I was like, no, that's bad. And
Jeff.
everyone else was like, yeah, sure. And anyway,
Jeff, we've had this conversation before.
I know it's
He didn't direct Armageddon.
he didn't direct Armageddon.
No,
He did something with Armageddon.
No, Michael Bay directed Armageddon.
Oh, that's right. I don't like Michael Bay either. I think this is funny. I think our conversation just now just like completely followed the same pattern as it did last time, where I mixed them up and then you corrected me.
The man who shall not be named. He was one of the writers on the screenplay, but he did not direct it.
Okay. All right. So he was on the screenplay.
Yeah, he was
Yeah. Yeah. So Michael Bay, I'm not a
We-
fan of either.
I'm just
Both
laughing
of them.
because we had this exact conversation before.
I
Anyway,
know.
anyway.
It's not just a tangent.
Oh,
It's like a.
oh yeah.
It's like we're stuck in a time loop, over and over again.
Please continue. We're already past an hour on this thing. Probably even after I cut out all the stuff when we were arguing about how much an AU actually is.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. So yeah, getting back to it, what I like about this movie is that Star Trek has usually a love story. It has a little bit of action, a little bit of horror. There's a lot of that mixed in here. But the thing that is huge is probably the overall cerebral plot and the romance side. And I know that we don't really watch a lot of romance movies because we prefer giant monsters crushing buildings. But as far as like romantic plot lines, this one is really good because I think getting into the philosophical side, when like in a romantic plot line, there's often the man and the girl, the two people, they often are very different in different ways, and it's those differences that make the couple interesting. And so in this one, it plays on that theme where like V'ger is very different than Decker, and so it's those differences is what really makes the couple work. And so this is like a grand version of that philosophically.
Do you mean
Of how-
Aya rather than
Ilea?
yeah,
What did I say?
you said V'ger.
V'ger? I did say V'ger, which is technically correct, but yeah, Ilea.
Yeah.
It's probably better to say Ilea. It seems weird any other way.
Yeah.
Okay, Ilea and Decker. So it has that plot. And Ilea, this actress they got to play her, she just, like, with her eyes, she's a great actress with her eyes. Just has a lot of emotion in it, which is not something that every actress can do. Anyway, and I like a lot of those things. I think a lot of the different characters are brought in and introduced and have fun scenes for them. But the reason why I think that this might be the greatest movie ever made, and I'm not saying that it absolutely is. I think that it's a strong candidate. I don't really know what the greatest movie is. I haven't really figured it out. And if I did, it would only matter to me anyway. But I think that storyline of growth is huge. People are going to think that they understand everything there is to know, and they're not going to realize that there is more knowledge out there. That's because their experience is limited, and it is by gaining experience from another intelligence that can think about things differently is where we evolve to the next step. So if the central theme of this movie is about evolution of ideas through companionship with another intelligence, that's it. And it's a very deep philosophical thing, and that's why I like it. That's what I do. And if you're gonna love Star Trek, you might love it for the cool space battles, or you might like it for the suspenseful moments, or just like the comedy. There's comedy in the show too. Although in the motion picture, there's not very much comedy. That might be another reason why people don't like it. But if you can like it for any of those things, but I think to really enjoy it the most, you got to dive into those really good cerebral storylines that it has.
I mean, not to break up your groove, but there was a couple of things that I found funny for reasons entirely unrelated to the movie.
Okay.
Towards the beginning of the movie, there is, just for reasons, a terrible accident with a transporter sequence, right?
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be this tragic, horrific scene, but all I could think of was, and it exploded.
The other transporter scene. Yeah. For those who don't know, yes, Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest is a very good parody.
It is.
Anyway, I didn't mean to throw off your groove.
We have a mutual friend that there was a point in time in which a lot of people on a plane were watching Galaxy Quest. We have a mutual friend that turned around and took a photograph, everybody watching Galaxy Quest. And their faces, they were just like mouths open, zombie stare, like just looking at this movie. So he didn't like Galaxy Quest, but anyway, it has a lot of funny moments that I do enjoy. And if you love Star Trek, Galaxy Quest is more funny because of
Yeah,
the show.
yeah. Galaxy Quest. I don't see. It has to be at least twice as amusing if you're in on the joke.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, at any rate, the drag thing's back on the track, I guess. So I don't necessarily disagree with any of your points. I don't know if I would call the romance between Decker and Aaliyah great. I mean, compared to some of the
Okay.
movies we've seen, it's better than most.
Okay.
So by and large, I don't really disagree with many of your arguments, but in my opinion, just whatever greatness there is in this movie is just it's too much brought down by the terrible pacing.
Okay. And that is a valid point to make because there's a lot of people that won't want to watch this movie because of that. And that's fine. You don't even need to watch this movie to enjoy the Star Trek films because if you start at Wrath of Khan, it's fine. These movies aren't connected all that well. At least, okay, that's completely wrong. I have to redact that. Okay, so Wrath of Khan up to the fourth movie, so 2, 3, and 4, their storylines are a little connected. So you probably do want to watch 2, 3, and 4 in order. And if you want to skip the motion picture entirely, then you can. You won't suffer anything storyline. Wouldn't you agree?
I mean, it's been a while since probably the one I've seen like anytime recently is Wrath of Khan. I don't think I've ever actually sat down and watched the Search for Spock end to end. I've seen it on TV a couple of times, but I don't remember enjoying it. Actually,
You're an even person,
I'm an even person. It's been
and
really...
I am one of the weird people that's an odd person.
You are odd for liking the odds.
Yeah,
I
I'm an extreme minority for that, it seems like.
very much, to my knowledge,
Very
yes.
much so.
I, in my personal opinion, yes. As far as the people in my family go, it is fairly well decided that the evens are the good Trek movies and the odds are the less good, at least up until...
It's like they made a mistake and they're like, okay, let's fix it. Oh, let's do something different. No, we made a mistake. Okay, let's fix it. It's like they're going back and forth.
I think that's really only true through First Contact, because that's really... I think First Contact is like, of the next gen movies, that's the only one that I would actually call good.
Really?
Yeah.
I like Insurrection.
Interaction isn't
Oh.
bad.
I
It's better
like
than
it 'cause
Nemesis.
I didn't watch Nemesis very much. I watched it, I think, only once. And there's things in it that I like, but I think there's a few things that didn't execute well. And the ending of that movie, which I won't say, is problematic too.
I've seen Nemesis, but I couldn't tell you anything about.
Really?
No.
Yeah, a lot of people love First Contact, but it's not as... I like it. It's fun in some ways, but I don't like it as much as other people do.
Well,
I think it really helps to set up the Star Trek universe for people, as you go back to that Ephraim Cochrane stuff, which is a big part of the backstory for all this. But so there's a lot of good things in that. But
first...
I don't like the Borg in that one as much.
Yeah.
I like the old school Borg.
Yeah, for the reasons why you watch Star Trek, I can see why you weren't such a big fan of First Contact, because it does lean a little bit more actiony, and instead of being like asking deep questions, it's more of a character study, I guess, of I almost said Kirk, but Kirk's not it. A character study of what's his name, Picard.
Yeah.
And just for reference, if anyone cares, I have not seen any of the like new Star Trek TV shows like Discovery and Picard. Have you seen them?
Yeah. No, I have seen reviews of them. It's made me not want to watch them.
Zero interest in those.
It's like watching, I don't know. It's like watching something burn after. Maybe since I haven't watched it, it's unfair to fully judge it. But from what I've seen of it, it's not something that I would like if I saw. It'd be a little bit too troubling for me.
It's not something that you would watch and be like, yeah, that's Star Trek.
Yeah, I don't think most people know Star Trek. I think Star Trek was a great thing that was around in the 80s and early 90s. But as soon as it started to become more popular, there's a lot of people who thought, hey, a lot of people like this. Let's make it more for the general audience instead of this small niche audience of of people. And when they did that, they had to make it more actiony. They had to make it more dramatic. They had to do normal drama instead of Star Trek drama, which is very different based on what Gene Roddenberry wanted it to be. So when they started making it palatable for normal people, it lost a lot of its spark, I think. And now you have Star Trek Discovery, where ultimately it's de-evolved into just being another normal show.
Yeah,
That's the most negative thing I could say about it. It's a normal show.
Yeah, I guess growing up, I just always kind of assumed that Trek was kind of universal because, my family watched Next Generation. Your dad's a big Trekkie. The other mutual friend we hung out with was a Trekker, but I forget what it was. There was some movie or TV show that had to do with like parallel dimensions or something like that, and it just confused everybody. I'm like, what are you talking about? They talked about this in Next Generation. How can you not get how parallel dimensions work?
I know. This is easy stuff. It's a parallel dimension.
And then I had to stop and think about it. And I'm like, dude, my poor parents, they probably had to, they had like 10-year-old me be like, Mom, what's a parallel dimension?
I don't know. I didn't grow up in a very Star Trek home. I guess more than most people.
More than most.
But it's not like, let's dress up and go to the convention.
No, yeah.
It wasn't like that. It was more like I had an aunt that would dress up and love it and talk about Captain Kirk a lot. But she had Down syndrome, so it's a little different. She was really funny.
Yeah,
love Star Trek. She was the best fan of all of us.
Yeah, we don't come a family of Trekkies, but both of us grew up with Star Trek.
Yeah, and I honestly think that as a kid, I was just enjoying it, and I really loved how Picard solved problems, and I liked how Data and Geordi were funny sometimes, and I liked how they worked together and solved problems. But as an adult growing up, I appreciate it a lot more because there's a lot of good themes they hit on, and it's just good writing. It's not flawless or perfect, and there's certain parts of Star Trek that don't work for most people, like we're talking about now with the motion picture, but in general it's really good writing most of the time.
I was gonna say, when you were talking about the parts of Star Trek people don't like, I was gonna say, like the first season of Next Generation, but I don't know if you've changed your mind. But I believe you said that, I don't know if it was your favorite episode or favorite scene came from the first season of Next Gen.
Do you know my favorite Next Gen episode?
Do you know what like I said, I don't know if your opinion has changed because I probably asked you this years and years ago.
Oh, I don't remember this conversation at all.
Okay. Was it? I forget what the episode name was, but it's the one where like
Oh, yeah. There was one that for a period of time it was my favorite. It was but that was more because of how gross it was. It was my darker side that loved it.
Okay.
And I think we all know which one it is now.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say, with all the stuff of you saying why you enjoyed Star Trek, I'm sitting there like, this is the same guy that liked the Parasite episode. and told me at one point
when I was little, I loved
that was your favorite episode.
Yeah, it's the one where Riker is gonna eat worms in order to fool the aliens, and he saves Picard by pretending to be one of them, and like he's gonna eat. I don't know. It's simple and quirky, and I like it. And then I love when they walk into the movie, they walk into this office, and there's this guy there. He's all, "Can I help you, gentlemen?" They all look confused, and then they shoot him with phasers, and it explodes into this giant creature. Anyway, yeah.
So safe to say that as you've grown older, your reasons for enjoying Trek have changed.
Yeah, they're a lot more tame now. I'm older and boring, much more boring than I used to be. So my favorite episode is actually Hollow Pursuits. I like that one. That's a Barclay episode, but I like other ones too.
Yeah, Barclay's interesting. And I don't know if we want to
go on and on forever about this stuff.
Yeah, we're already at an hour and a half. I don't know if we want to go full tangent in the Next Generation.
Okay. So, yeah, we can close up.
Okay, so
I think I've gone on and on forever enough about this movie. I do like it. I wish I could explain it more, but I think what I said is probably enough.
Yeah, you've stated your case. I don't disagree, but I just think the baggage that comes with the rest of the film just makes it really hard to recommend.
I actually agree. I think this is hard to recommend, but maybe the best movie ever made is the movie that's hard to watch. If the ability for people to enjoy the movie is not the defining factor. But we'll see. Maybe, in 10 years, people might, we grow into an enlightened society, like in Star Trek, maybe people will love these kinds of movies that and they won't care about pacing. Or maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, if people like action movies and they like movies that can have very good pacing, then you're going to be bored.
Well, it's not even just action scenes, I'm here making hand gestures like people can see it, but anyway, I've said my piece on that.
Well, and they only use the photon torpedoes once. The Enterprise does. The Klingons shoot at things a little bit, and there's ships that get destroyed, but it's not like balls of flame and fire and...
Yeah, no, it's not an action movie, and that's not my problem, because even if you call it what it is, which is more or less a drama, the special effect shots just still drag on for way too long and take you away from that, in my opinion.
Okay. It is something I didn't like as well as a kid, but it's been growing on me ever since. And with all these other intricate storyline elements, I think it's a good movie. If people are brave enough to handle it, then give it a try. You might like some things about it.
Okay, so Jeff highly recommends it. I don't. We'll phrase it.
You're gonna have to get me back with something. You're gonna have to find some movie you love.
I have a couple of ideas, but
you have ideas.
I have ideas, but we won't get into that. Anyway, anything else you want to say?
Nope.
Final last chance to talk about Star Trek the motion picture in a positive light.
That's it. Live long and prosper.
Okay, so hour and a half on Star Trek motion picture, ladies and gentlemen. If anyone's made it that far, thank you for listening to the Wandering Tangent podcast. My name is BJ. With me is Jeff and his questionable taste in movies. And we'll see you next time.